Welcome. Again, my name is Michael. This is Product Leaders Live, episode 4. We've got Francis on the call today. So basically, today we're talking about digital transformation. Um, a few different things, to be honest, that we're going to go through. Pretty much like normal. Just a quick overview of what we're doing. Go through, Francis' background, how she got where she is, some effects that they're facing, and then some of these headlining questions around digital transformation, product-driven organizations, building, product culture and what that kind of means, and teams in general, and then just kind of go through a recap. So, um, pretty much as everyone knows, people who aren't here or people who are listening on the podcast, this is, again, it's episode 4. The group's all around about trying to solve business critical issues for people. Right now, obviously, we're pretty focused on COVID-19 coronavirus situation that's going on right now. Obviously, digital transformation is a big part of that because, it's kind of been thrust down everyone's throat almost. So let's go through everything. I'm all that. If you haven't heard of us, we're obviously a recruitment company. We work mainly with SaaS companies across Europe. We do some work in North America. Me personally, I'm kind of a product geek, but although I do recruitment, but my whole family's in product. So that's kind of where I come from. My dad actually runs industrial design program in the US. So again, that's where I come from. I love it. So that's why I do this. So I'll introduce Francis. Obviously, she's actually helping us out here a little bit last minute because we had one of our other speakers drop out. So really appreciate you coming on the show today, Francis. And I guess I'll let you introduce yourself. We've obviously got some points here about you, just pulled off your LinkedIn, but feel free to say whatever you want.
Okay, no worries. So nice to meet you guys. So I've now been in product. That's quite scary when I say it, for about 12 years. And obviously the product manager when I started and what product meant then versus now is very different, but that's what makes product interesting. So I actually started out as a full stack developer, got headhunted into product and was like, this is amazing because I get to do the creative, the technical, and engage with people all at the same time. I've been lucky to work in organizations, especially Career Builder that I was at for 10 years, that was very much a product, tech, and innovation business that really invested in how to make sure their product people grew and knew all the kind of best practices and what was happening. So did that, lots of great experience across B2B and B2B and B2C. And then moved on to ADP and now working at GoCompare doing new product development in terms of consumer auto switching platforms. So currently working on a new product launch there, which is really exciting. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing this session.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean that's really interesting. You've been doing this quite a while, so
Yeah.
I don't actually think anyone has had more experience, to be honest with you, that we've had on here. So that's cool at least. So yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll just go straight into it, really. I mean, this is what it really comes down to right now. I mean, everyone's talking about it. It's pretty generic, I guess you could say, but obviously digital transformation. It really has been forced on a lot of companies and a lot of leaders are just being forced to deal with it. So really, I mean, would your strategy simply around digital transformation, I guess you could say, would your strategy be simply to adapt to this kind of new normal that's coming up, or are we trying to, or is it beneficial to kind of reimagine and try to push some type of innovation for your company and things like that? Obviously, we've just seen, even, I guess this isn't exactly digital transformation, but we did just see Jack Dorsey and Twitter, move everyone to having the option to work from home. Obviously, that's not necessarily reimagining something, but it's something a little bit different. So, how is that kind of playing out for you?
So I think one, we're all lucky, those of us that can work from home and still be able to achieve our jobs. And I think obviously product and tech is a great industry to be in. So much of it is continuing with the norm, getting things done. We haven't slowed down in terms of what we're trying to do. If anything, I'd say my days are a lot more hectic and intense, because I feel like there's urgency to prepare for when we come out of the situation, whatever period that might be. So there's a lot of urgency in our business to kind of build as much as we can, so that when people do have more money, or when people do come out of this, they can do the things that they need to do. We did initially have a lot of debates on whether we should actually slow down the launch of a new product vertical we're working on. Yep. Not knowing what the current climate looks like or might be like. And really our decision making was more around we see it as an opportunity to, even if we don't launch, learn. Yeah. And actually the way people think about scenarios and the way people think about what they need moving forward is likely to change. So let's invest in understanding the customer more, doing more research around that, and testing a lot more propositions and approaches to really come out with a better understanding, and also get the data that enables us to know, should we push hard now, or should we take it more slowly? I think more generally, I think it would be a missed opportunity. And I've always kind of looked at my product roadmaps the way that I look at product in two ways. There's the getting things done and showing progress, but the rate of progress and the ability to innovate and drive and change is only possible by questioning everything and looking beyond and saying, what if we approach it this way? We may not do it today, but you need that context to enable you to actually take those big strides that enable significant change and impact in product. I don't personally believe, I would rather spend more time in the reimagining and innovating to support my ability to deliver today than focus on today's iterations and losing the opportunity to really see something that I could be doing differently or develop differently.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's what you were first talking about, how you guys are potentially looking at delaying, product launch. We were talking about that last week, and I mean, it's kind of thought we're, I guess, not postulating, I guess, but you could say, but thinking about how, what is the negatives of it, and really what we kind of thought about was a situation where the product that you have almost makes it seem like your customers are, or whatever you've been doing, you've been working on something that was not relevant or helpful to them. And then you've now released it. Obviously, there's different levels of these things, right? But that was the only potential reason that, I mean, we had a few people on talking about that, and it was the only real potential reason we could think of delaying, because obviously the product launch isn't a lot of I guess you could say people who aren't in product always think that the product launch is almost the end, whereas really the product launch is just the beginning, right? So
and I think the interesting thing is, actually I would challenge if you're unsure about the current environment, what is the smallest thing that you can do to get data to understand whether you should continue? Because actually, if you spent the time doing that, and it doesn't have to be development, so I always challenge my teams, how can we learn something new through that product discovery track, whether it's prototyping, speaking to customers, whatever that might be. And through that time spent, if that means invalidating that shouldn't be done, or if it actually validates that our assumptions were completely wrong and we need to double invest, then I think that's the right way forward. So actually, I think the question is, how can I pull it back to enough of a version to understand the specifics, risks or areas that I'm unsure about in my design or in what I'm creating, to gain confidence to move forward.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, that's I think we're going to come to that a little bit, just because what we've really seen. I mean, and I've being in product not for that long, but growing up around this kind of these thoughts, it's always kind of been that design thinking mindset, right? Where instead of just simply doing something and then building through the entire thing, you're always trying to, test and iterate on every single version of it, really. So you shouldn't be really even in a situation where, if you do follow that, then you would already have known after the first, week or two or month after kind of this situation has kind of progressed, what your customers want and what's whatever your product you're developing is, whether or not that's actually, still meeting their goals or not, or
Exactly.
meeting their, I mean, what they need, their needs, right? Not necessarily goals, but what they actually do need.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, so that, I mean, bringing straight into this, kind of what, for companies nowadays, I mean, a lot of companies do have product teams. They might have, I mean, lots of people have product owners and they pretend they have product teams. And but so really, what does it mean to be kind of a product focused driven organization? Is this really important in, for the new normal? I mean, we think so, yes, but interesting to find out your thoughts, and obviously how does, user experience, customer experience tie into that?
Yeah, so I think when I look at this question, I look more at, so I know when I started out on product, it was very much sales led. So it's the salesperson goes out, sells something probably that hasn't been built, and then everyone runs afterwards to try and make that and fulfill on that. Then we kind of went through the period of marketing led, where it's these nice flashy landing pages that talk about all of these things to get people into the product. So really, when I look at think about product driven, it's is the product, and less about product management. So I want to do that distinction. Is the product really central to the success of the business? Is it through the product that we're able to sell, support, train, educate the customer? Is the product the mechanism to market out? And really, it's how do we market through the product, and how do we build our brand through the product, and how do we engage our customers through the product? And true product-led organizations, all of those dynamics are part of the product that makes it so fundamental.
Of course.
So if we look at, for example, freemium models, there's no way that you can provide something in freemium if the product doesn't actually work, and it's thinking through those different stages in terms of how do we market. If we look at from a brand perspective, it's hard to launch a bad product and get away with it. Because your customers will talk about it. There's reviews, there's all of these different platforms. So actually you have to be more conscious about, when I'm releasing features and releasing products, what does it say about my brand? What does it say about our quality standards? And what does it say about our understanding of the market dynamics and all of those pieces? And like I said, how do you engage customers in that? So, and I think the two dynamics that I've always been really passionate about is how can that feed into the true product-led organizations, is that focus on data and being really data-led in what you're doing, and focus on the customer. Because in those scenarios of doing the two and really having that deep understanding, that's what enables the ability to build those products that change the way that we interact, use things, or think about industries. So for me, that's kind of like what I think of when I say a product-led organization. Is less about necessarily the product team as a function, but more about the multidisciplinary team. So that's UX, product managers, the tech guys, product marketing, all of those people that actually enable a well thought out end-to-end customer experience that supports your ability to go, yes, it makes sense, and yes, you thought about all the dynamics that enable me to get to the end and say that was a great experience overall.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's really what the question is here. I mean, we speak to a lot of companies who have product teams. I guess you could say quote unquote product teams. And they say maybe that they're product led, but you notice things like, as an example, there's a CTO who is also a CPO. As an example, just to give to put it quite clearly, where those roles really in a product organization don't sit with one person. And I think one of the big questions here that people have kind of had is that what, essentially what you just answered, product, it's not about necessarily the exact organization, but it is about the focus being on, the essentially the end customer experience, and the fact that you're building a product to meet their future and obviously current needs as well. But that's what it really is all about. You're not just building something because there's tech there to build it, right?
And I think it's also in some of these organizations, it's the product's the afterthought. Yeah. And that also generally means the customer's the afterthought as well, because truly as product people, we are the voice of the customer. We should understand them deeply, obviously working with our colleagues in user experience as well. So it's usually that ends up being the afterthought, right? So you put something out there based off, assumptions, or based off, but this competitor did this, or based off, there's this new technology out there, we want to try it out. Yeah. All of those different things that we've all experienced, or the most popular one of I have the loudest voice, or I'm the most senior person, so I know what it needs to be.
Pretty classic.
Yeah. And the industry's always worked this way. So you have all of those different dynamics that normally drive the decision making. And that's why for me, I've always gone, actually, can we focus more on data? And data for me is a mechanism to have real conversations across the different groups in an organization, and make it less subjective and actually get to the true essence of what we're trying to do, and become objective in it. And also always going, yes, based on my experience, it's X, Y, Z, which is great perspective to have, but let's validate that. Let's find ways to make sure that actually that truly represents the customers that we want to be targeting. So not that we want to attract everyone, but who's that true persona groups that we want to be targeting, and making sure we're doing that. So I think the product-led organizations kind of give that freedom for the creativity that should exist in product.
Yep.
And give the freedom for the fact that it's not a linear process. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Even the best of product people can have great ideas. Doesn't mean it's going to be successful. It's about that process of going, actually, let's be really clear on why we're doing and what we're trying to learn from this. Let's set clear KPIs so that we can measure that. If we can't measure it now, let's step back, make sure we can measure it so we have the data to benchmark, to move forward. And then how do we loop customers either through qual, quant, or any mechanism possible to make sure as we're taking those steps forward, we have that data from all the different perspectives to go, yeah, fantastic. And really my goal is actually, how can I invalidate as much things as possible, not validate.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a huge thing when it comes down to it in the end, right? And like a lot of organizations, especially when they don't have that right mindset, their focus is on, okay, I have this great idea, let's see, how everyone else thinks it's great.
Yeah.
Right. And that essentially leads to, a lot of the times, people just say, yeah, it's great. Not actually being something that they would ever use or buy. And I think that's what's one of the big issues and why we're talking about this now, is that, cost cutting for a lot of companies comes down to that in the end, right? So if you've actually built a product that they wanted and need, based on that data, then it's pretty unlikely that that company is going to be, or person is not going to be purchasing that product or continuing to pay for it, especially in a SaaS kind of organization, right? If what you've done is actually essentially key and needed by those your customer, and who those people are, then you're not going to be in a situation where if I guess you have more resilience where if this situation ever happens again, your entire customer base isn't just going to cancel or not be able or not pay or whatever it might be. I mean, obviously there's things that mitigate that with
Yeah.
annual pricing agreements, etc. But that's I think that's why this is kind of an important thing to talk about right now, really, because as people get a little bit more concerned and focus on those costs, right? That's it's always the first thing to go. Cut everything that we is not necessary.
But it's true, and I think it's the interesting thing is I was listening to something a few weeks back where it's kind of in the past there's a lot of organizations that could get away with those assumptions
Mm-hmm.
because the dynamics of the environment have been either similar or the expectation from the customers being kind of lower, and like you said, budgets might have existed in the past that don't exist now, and all of those sort of things. So I think like really the companies that are going to emerge successful are the ones that are open to the fact that they do need to just rethink everything, and everything might not necessarily change, but at least being open to it means that they will see those indicators earlier that will enable them to shift as needed, either shift to be more digital, shift in terms of customer needs and their values, shift in terms of the way that they might be delivering or creating their products, whatever that might be. But I think those are the people that are going to survive, knowing that actually in the past it may have been easier to be successful than it is now, and that actually the environment we come out in may be quite different to what it is today.
Definitely. I mean, I think that's it's the biggest thing that I really need to think about. And I mean, like kind of doing that triage of what of your customers and coming back to that data and like speaking to people now about what they need and what your product could potentially do. And even, I mean, obviously it's not all up to just asking them, but
100%.
getting an understanding of how not only now in the near future, but also in 6, 12, 24 months, what could potentially in your products that actually deliver a lot more value for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, I think this question, because I've spoken to some people. Well, I don't know, has my video cut out there? I think it did. There we go. Spoken to some people, and I said that you were joining the call, and right on the top of your LinkedIn page, it talks about you talk about this kind of creative culture and kind of building that, and so this kind of came out of that. I was having a discussion with one of the guys that was going to join this call today. And so obviously, is there such a thing as a company that has a product or creative culture? How do we build and maintain that type of culture during this time period? Like, is that what does that mean, I guess, is more of the question, and why is it important, and how can we actually do that? I guess it comes down again to product company type thing, but obviously they are still separate.
Yeah, so I think for me, when I look at how do I create product cultures, there's a few pieces of it. So what I tend to do with my teams actually is to try and bridge the different gaps of concerns.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, you might have a company vision and then you have a team that's working on X and they find it hard to even align to that vision or what it means to them. They have their internal goals and the things that they care about. They might have started product or worked in dev or started doing X for whatever reason. So for me, a lot of what I try to do when I take on new teams is actually to just kind of level that all out and try and tie all of it together so that we're looking at, yes, the business goals, the external drivers, but also the internal dynamics of the team when balanced together will actually enable our success, and kind of merge the two together, which is why I kind of go, it's, for me, it's about creating the right environments that support successful delivery of products, but cultures that enable people to grow, succeed, and feel like they can create, and not that they're confined in the way that they need to think, act, or even the tools they need. And all those dynamics. So what I'll usually do is kind of like create a board of, let's make sure the vision is clear and what that vision means. Let's then break out the drivers towards that vision in terms of the internal factors, and usually those business factors that, or business drivers that people care about, and those external drivers, either market, innovation, whatever that might be, that's driving some of our decision making, and also the customer element of it. So you kind of get those three perspectives. But I think the part that creates it's not just about working towards a product, but building a culture that supports that, is actually going, what are the team drivers? What is a team that you've acquired, and what do they care about? What are their principles, and what are the actions that they want to be achieving themselves at the same time as achieving the product principles and actions as well. I'm not saying it's an easy activity, but and it's not an activity that you need to do by yourself as a leader either. You might need to help in the vision setting, but the rest of it is about the brainstorming, collaboration, and discussion that helps to build that together. So if it comes top down, it's not going to work. It really needs to be top down, bottom up, to really challenge your team to think differently on some of the principles they might come up with, or some of the actions, and also encourage an environment of openness that they talk about those team drivers that's important to them, that you need to know about, and we need to cater for this at the same time. So for me, I think a lot about working in product and technology and creating great teams is around empowerment. So it's the autonomy to do to do what you feel is the right thing to do, but along with the accountability, because I think that part doesn't always get tied together. So you end up going, and this is why people end up micromanaging, which kills our creativity, because you don't do the autonomy with accountability together. And part of the accountability piece is actually being really clear on defining what those goals and what good looks like. I personally don't care what way it's done. I know there's OKRs. Some people do it well, some people do it badly. KPIs, SMART goals, whatever that is. I think actually the focus needs to be, is the goal clear enough? Does the team understand it? And is it stretching them enough that you're going to actually get them to think beyond today? And as long as that's done correctly, the mechanism for me, I've come to not care about, because I've seen all of them done well and badly.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. I mean, this is actually even more important what you're kind of talking about right now, because a lot of people have this issue becomes even more important when you have this work from home environment, right? Because you can't measure, you can't really be micromanaging. It just doesn't work. There's no real such thing as just measure how long this person's on their computer or whatever. That doesn't make sense. You can't do that now, right? So I mean, you do have to switch to Michael Sacca, like he's the, I think, director, head of product at Dribble. We were talking about one of the first episodes we had, that it's kind of like you just said, it's a kind of almost, it is outcome based, right? Or output almost, but you can't really if you do switch to that mindset, you can't just say, okay, we're doing that, right? And then just have, randomly decide, have, okay, this is what we're doing, that's it, right? You need to have, like you just said, a clear idea of what those actual outcomes are going to be, and ensure that there is a lot of clarity around that, because it doesn't, again, like you said, it doesn't really matter necessarily how much work was done or how you did it or anything like that, as long as, the output or the outcome has, the right impact, or the positive impact is done right and is done well, kind of defining that well. So
Yeah, and I think it's actually spending time in that piece
yeah,
frees up the rest. And for me, because I've had remote teams from very early on in my experience, it's forced me to have to do it.
yeah,
So the micromanagement aspect has never been part of the way that I manage teams, because it's impossible to micromanage people that are in India or the US when you're in the UK. Like,
definitely. Yeah.
and literally
What
up
are you gonna
24. So it's kind of like force that mindset to change. So so for me, it's really about like starting with the essence of the team and building up what it means to create good products and to enable creativity, because I do think that what we do and what the whole team does is about creating, and creating requires openness. It requires your ability to not be under pressure all the time, to also feel like you can take risks, and the whole fail fast. I actually think that's really important, because otherwise, if you're always just trying to do what's safe, how are we going to innovate and how are we going to push forward with those things? And I think from a leader perspective, it's how do you embody that in the way that you engage with your team, in the way that you collaborate in your team, and the platforms that you create to enable that. So whether it's one-to-ones, being less about asking a list of questions and actually going, come with a difficult problem and let's brainstorm on it together as a concept, whether it's platforms where it's as a team, let's work through problems, or all of those sort of things. So it's how do you kind of showcase that from top down about what it means to be creative, and what it means to show creativity across the team. And for me, I always talk about team meaning all of the roles within a team. Even if it's not my report, like I need to enable that whole team to think that way, because that's the only way that we can actually succeed in what we're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it very much ties into, I guess, this next point that we have here, which is teams. So yeah, I mean, when building teams across an organization, what importance should be placed on being product driven, product culture, if this is to be the new normal for top companies. So, I mean, I think this comes into maybe an idea of obviously product within your own product team. That these things are important, and that's kind of almost a given, I guess you could say, although it's not necessarily focused on. But I think maybe this question, which when I was chatting with the gentleman who brought it up, Tim, we were saying that this is more on the entire company. So I guess that ties back into the culture as well, and that, it's all great and good to have your I guess maybe your product function, if you wanted to call it that, product teams, even from all the way through. But if you're not hiring people, maybe in your senior management, or even throughout different teams in the organization, develop dev teams, customer success, even, if those people don't have share that kind of culture or that mindset, it's going to be very difficult for the product teams to, or for the, for that company to actually be product focused still, right? So I think that's kind of what this is a little bit more aimed at, because I mean, it does seem to maybe a little obvious that product and product driven product culture, obviously those are important for when you're building a team, but
I get it. And I think it's interesting. So I always think in my head two things: empathy. So how do I understand those other departments and what they're caring and thinking about, and their drivers, because they're probably different from mine, most likely, especially in some cases like sales. But also, I feel like a really important thing as a product person is how do you tell a story and how do you bring people along the journey?
Mm-hmm.
So things I've done in the past, I ran discovery sessions with end users in Germany and got the CEO from the US to come and run some sessions. He didn't have to do the prep work for these customer prep. It was all pre-organized and organized in a way that he could follow it.
Mm-hmm.
But he was told that he needs to run those sessions and listen, and that we'd come out of it and talk about what the insights and dynamics that I observed, he observed, all of those pieces. And some of that is to help give people perspective, because there's a lot of people that think it might be easy or have assumptions or might have worked with bad product teams before or worked with teams that were product teams but really weren't. So it's how do you bring them into what you do on a day-to-day basis and make it easy for them to engage in that, and kind of showcase the good and bad and all the different things that you have to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And in this example, we did it for Germany specifically. So we knew he was coming for a leadership meeting in Germany. There was a lot of challenges on why does our product not work so successfully in Germany, and run meetings in the US before to kind of like outline that. But there was always a bit of that, are we really sure about what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So to bring it to light, doing that really helped with that. And I think there's lots of ways to do that. It doesn't have to, it could be recording sessions and sharing it as part of your outputs, or creating a platform where people can go and find videos and what customers have said about the product, so that they can hear it firsthand and it's not always coming from you, and they understand what customers say tied to personas.
Yeah.
Even to the extent of like some developers, like I used to have a French development team, I shouldn't really say it, but I'm going to, they used to say no. Every user story started off with no, we don't see the value, while talking about invest. And actually by becoming data and customer driven and bringing that data into the conversation and showing how we validated it, it changed a lot of that perception. So we no longer spent a lot of time going no because that's what culturally they were used to, or they always in the past. It became, okay, how do we build something great to solve this? Because clearly this is a big issue.
Yeah.
So I think it's finding those mechanisms to pull people in and to showcase what you're doing, and also finding other organizations, whether it's bringing people to talk about what they're doing in other organizations and expanding those sessions outside of the tech or product team, to others that might just have interest in what's being done, or even creating platforms where it's so another thing I've done in the past is creating platforms where anyone can submit an idea or hypothesis, but forcing them to talk about what they think the impact is, and then working with them to design the research we might do around it, and engaging them in that process so that they felt they had a platform where they could engage, but also got the feedback back, so that then next time they'll think about it more, because now they understand all the stuff that's involved in doing it, and also learn through that not all their ideas necessarily will work. So it's just how do you do things to kind of go, what's this person interested in? What mechanisms can I make it easier for them to kind of get an insight or view into the world of product, or view into the world of the customer, or view into the outcomes and impacts that are valuable, so that then they start thinking in different ways, and it becomes something they have first-hand experience of rather than second-hand.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Definitely. Wow. I mean, that's quite a lot of info on that one.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'm gonna have a good time to summing that up. Not too sure how I'm gonna do that.
Stop me next time and just go, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I'm gonna have to stop the screen here just to pull up some of these questions that came through on another platform there. But yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, the big thing that I think that we were we were talking about or looking at that was quite interesting was um, where's that question? I'm trying to pull it up here. Sometimes my computer doesn't let me do things correctly. Yeah, hold on. There we go. All right. So this was about essentially product. Again, it comes back to this product and digital transformation, I guess you could say again. Um, so now that we are where we are, you know, what last week we talked with Richard Giannetti, and his focus has been very much on almost quick wins and the fact that because things are changing so quickly for so many companies right now, it's almost like product roadmaps have shortened to from 6, 12 months, maybe even from 1 to 6, 12, 24 months to yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And although that is the case for a lot of companies, how do you balance timelines for not only your development and roadmaps, but also maybe even hiring, your teams if that's what you're doing. How do you balance that? Because obviously right now is a great time to not only maybe reimagine your product or seize some opportunities, but also to potentially bring on new people if you can afford it, if you're not in a bad place and this is actually positive for you, or you see some growth. How do you see that?
So it's an interesting one. So just to give you some insight. So I've been doing a lot of research on the new vertical we're planning to launch. And then as usual, you get that sudden, we need to get something delivered by X.
Yeah.
And what we've actually found is we've been able to hire, and this is not all full time people. We've actually been able to hire a development team within weeks, where normally it would normally take longer. So there's some aspects in contractors that are being laid off, people that no longer have opportunities, that actually makes it a bit ripe. And I know this sounds, and I'm not even saying it in an opportunist way, but actually there's people that are looking for opportunities every day, and you can actually get some great talent. So I'm looking at the team that we've managed to get on board within a few weeks, consisting of 4 developers, and they're really good. Like I've worked with them for two weeks, and I'm already like, they're good. And I'm not sure we would have been able to get those guys on board because they probably would have been snapped up with another contract. So I think it just depends on, I'm in a lucky situation in terms of we're still hiring.
Yeah.
We still have investment. We haven't furloughed or made anyone redundant.
Yeah.
So for us, it's actually a great opportunity to bring on some great talent into the business, and we figured out, luckily, how to onboard people really well. So actually, they've all been really excited to join because it's all been smooth. So I think it's like figuring out how do you still in this environment help people to become effective and efficient when they've never met you. So I've never met any of them in person. I did also hire a UX person that started last week that I've never met in person. That did take longer. But it's how do you create those platforms so you can build up that relationship and engage still. I think in terms of deliverables, we're again a bit different in the sense of we're actually investing a lot in going, how do we reimagine and start doing work on our long-term vision so that we can start getting our board to think about the level of investment that's needed for the future.
Makes sense, yeah.
To prep for that, along with delivering on the roadmap at all levels. So it hasn't actually changed so much in terms of that, but it's just more the intensity and the amount that's kind of expected to be delivered over the time frame.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I think it is strange that, people seem to think, and I think those are some of the future sessions that we're going to do, are kind of going to be around this, because a lot of people do struggle with it, because, when you do move to an all at home, work from home, or, letting people always work from home, or having to do that, companies just assume that, oh, it's great, it's great for everyone, or they assume no one's going to do anything, so they don't have any problems, they should all be happy because they don't do any work. In reality, people do more work, and it's probably not so great. So there's a lot of, kind of big mental health challenges, and, division between work and home, all those types of things become a bit more.
Yeah.
So, but on the hiring side, I mean, we know we have the same thing. Our recommendation to companies, if they can hire, do, because I mean, right now it is almost unprecedented. I mean, especially product is an area that a lot of companies have always struggled with hiring to begin with, because it is so immature almost, I guess you could say, especially in Europe compared to the US, where in the US, they know, product focused companies exist, really, right? Here, a lot of big companies that have product teams have a team of product managers that all their product managers are actually product owners.
Yeah.
None of them are, and that's what it is.
That's a whole discussion.
Yeah.
Myself, like the number of times had this discussion around product owner versus product manager and X.
Never ends. And it's right now though, because of the situation, your product managers who actually do full cross-functional end-to-end product management are rare. And people who are good at it, it's hard to find. But right now, and whether it be that skill specifically, or, or dev, or front-end developers, or UX guys, or, product analyst, business analysts, I guess you could say, however you want to call it, there are people available. So although it is not a great time, it is also a great time. But then you have the other challenges, onboarding, and, maybe now instead of having 5 applications and not having enough, you have 200. So then you have too many, and what do you do? So yeah, I mean, I think that I mean, we have a few more questions here, but I mean, we're already going overtime. I don't want to keep you too long, so maybe.
Okay, I didn't even know what the time was anyway, because I didn't.
Yeah, we've already gone over, I think, over the 45 minutes, which was the extended time.
Oh, okay. Apologies.
It's all life. I mean, for me, it doesn't matter. It's an interesting conversation, but I do have some things. I mean, maybe what I can do is I can send them over to you or something like that. We can have a chat later on. So, I mean, it is interesting. I do this because I like it, and I think that it helps people. So considering we are kind of out of time, I'll leave those for a different day. I'll shoot them over to you maybe in an email as well. But either way, I really do appreciate having you on. I mean, the only thing I do always like to do at the end, I pulled this from the YouTube show Hot Wings. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a really good interview show. At the very end of it, they always say, this is your time to let people know, about your company, give yourself, say whatever you want, promote yourself, your company, your books, whatever you're up to. This is your chance to do that.
Okay, so a chance. Is it UK people?
European wide, so yes, UK, but we do have a fair number of people from Netherlands, Germany. I think we had some people from France last week as well. And this is also going out to them, a bunch of people. I think we have 20 or 30, maybe even 40 people that are submitting kind of different questions and discussion points on this. That if they can't join, they still get the recording, and we get lots of people watching them, comments back. So. Yeah, any place in Europe.
Okay, I asked that. So obviously I work for GoCo Group that own Go Compare. Most people think about Go Compare as a brand, but actually the exciting area I'm working on is called Autosave. So really, we have a platform called Look After My Bills. Go check it out. And the whole concept of what we do is enabling people to sign up for the service. And what we ensure is that you automatically save on your bills for the rest of your time on the platform. So we're doing that for energy. As I mentioned, there are exciting new verticals about to come out. So really check out the platform. It's great. I use it myself because I do believe that there's better things to do with my time than searching for the best energy deals in the UK. So that's my pitch for our business. And I think the exciting thing about GoCo as a group, what we're doing disrupts price comparison. Go Compare is a price comparison site. So the more businesses that go, actually, it's fine to have different groups that are looking at different dimensions and different segments, and it enables us all to have data. Those are the type of exciting companies you want to work for. So look after my bills. Let me know what you think.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And if I do have something, I'll get that across to you, some of those questions. And for everyone that's on here, some of the guys that left me some questions in the other podcast area, I'll try and get those answered for you. And anyone who has a one-to-one schedule the next few weeks, awesome. And I think we really appreciate you having you on. And I hope you have a great day as well. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Cheers, have a good day.